We got up a little early because it was primary day in New York City. We had coffee, and then he kissed me goodbye. He said, "I'll see you tonight."
This just into our newsroom. A plane has crashed into the World Trade Center.
I got to my office, and my message light was blinking on my phone. And it was Eugene. And he said, "Don't worry. The plane hit the other building. We're evacuating, and I'm okay."
The New York City Fire Department is issuing a call for a total recall of all officers and firefighters.
And there must have been almost 40 of us in that room watching the monitors. And it wasn't just a few minutes that I had standing there, and all of a sudden, this other plane came out of nowhere and hit his building.
It is horrific. A second plane the size of a passenger jet flying into the second tower of the World Trade Center.
I called home, and I left a message on our phone at home for him to call me as soon as he got in.
Oh my God, the building fell! Oh my God, the building just fell! The entire World Trade Center on the South building just fell.
When we got back to the apartment, again, I opened the door and expected Eugene to be sitting there waiting.
Yes, that is the second. That is the second tower. That is the second tower.
Down. It's a huge plume of smoke that came out of the middle of the building, and then the building just disappeared in the smoke.
I got a call from Gene's direct supervisor. She had been at a seminar that day and had not been in the building. And so, of course, she called. And I told her that he hadn't come home. I went to the family center that next week. It was mobbed, just absolutely mobbed. When you walked in, you registered at the table, and they assigned you a person who took you to this person and that person. The first person you went to see was the lawyer who actually filed the affidavit for you for the death certificates. I decided I was going to go to our favorite restaurant. I walked in, and he was, "How are you?" And, just you? And I said, "Yeah, I've been at the family center all day." And he said, "Did you lose somebody?" And I said, "Eugene." And he just grabbed me and cried. I think he's the first person I actually said it to. The first person that I said he was gone. On April 29th, which was a Tuesday, I had, for some reason, this intense feeling that I needed to make plans for my death, burial. I made some telephone calls that morning, and by 1 o'clock I had finalized purchasing a joint niche in a garden wall in the cemetery that my parents are buried in Oregon. So I went out and had lunch. And I came back, and there was a message, and it was a detective from a Midtown South precinct. The detectives told me that the medical examiner had identified Eugene's remains. It was just more or less particles that were identified through DNA, which doesn't matter to me, you know. He was identified.
Among everything else that today is, today would have been Gene's 49th birthday. And I couldn't let his birthday go by without a cake. So we're gonna have a birthday party for Gene. The cake says, "Happy birthday, Gene. Go with God."
It's funny that even though I knew that he was not coming back, I guess there's a part of you that still maybe he is in the Bahamas. Maybe he will come back someday. And then to have this happen, this is final. I still love New York. And I don't want to leave until it's been rebuilt downtown. I have to stay here until I see that completed. I don't know, maybe that's part of my healing process. You know, that's a big wound down there. And it's just like I'm wounded. And as I heal, that area is going to heal.
Where's it going?
My kids, all three of them, said, you know, we live clear out here on the West Coast. Why are you staying in New York? I always kind of felt like a failure with my children.
A little typewriter. Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Their mother and I were married at, you know, a young age. We struggled a lot. There were times of unemployment. We had some really rough times. Then when I decided to leave their mother, that was really hard on them. And then later coming out of the closet, you know, to my teenagers, and they were wonderful. But I know that it had to be, you know, a very, very stressful situation. So I always considered myself as not much of a role model to my kids. But then they told me how much they looked up to me, how I had made an impact on their lives. So I moved here.
Meow.
Thinking about it, I realized that New York was Gene's town. You know, it was very active, a lot of theater. I have never met a person who had such a zest for life. Gene loved living. He loved living in New York. It was really Janestown. I wonder if part of the reason I moved to California was like putting distance between me and Gene. I have pictures of him in every room in my house. And it's funny, I get used to passing them, you know, on my way from room to room or whatever. And almost instinctively, I reach out and touch their picture in that room. I thought by 4 years' time, I would be much more composed about this. I'd be more settled about it. But I'm not. And it's hard. I almost didn't come. I still feel the intensity of it, feeling that this is the last place he stepped on Earth.
He's right.
Mr. Martin, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good.
Heinrich Bernard Ackerman. Paul Aquaviva. Donald Leroy Adams. Patrick Adams. Shannon Lewis Adams.
I remember my grandfather. He had cut off tips of several fingers when he was young.
Greg Arthur Atlas.
He used to tell me that he could still feel the pain in the tips of his fingers, not where the stubs were, but out on the end of his fingers. He said, I can still feel the end of my fingers hurting.
Robert Dominic Seary. Eugene Clark.
When you're wounded, a scab covers that wound. The wound is still there, but the scab covers it for a while. And then when it's gone, the wound is still there, but it's now a scar. And it still hurts. And I think that hurt never goes away.
James D. Clear. Jeffrey W. Cloud.
I basically laid in the house all day. I never went out. I hadn't washed dishes in like 2 weeks. I actually had thoughts that my will is in order. Material possessions don't, whatever happens to them, happens to them. And maybe it'd just be better for everybody if I died. My daughter came over one Sunday, she and her husband, and they put me in the hospital for 7 days. It was my HIV medications, and my body had started rejecting whatever I was on. I thought, how could I have let myself get to that point of not caring whether I lived or died when I have children and other people who will care? I think I wasn't allowing myself to be whole, because then it would be like disrespectful to Gene for me to be a whole person again. It would be denigrating to his memory. But then I realized it would be the best thing I could do for him.
It is a privilege to welcome new members into the faith community.
I grew up in a very faith-oriented family. I used to be able to quote scriptures and Proverbs and Psalms. When I moved to New York, I met Gene, and I drifted away from that.
This time of welcome is sacramental. It is an outward and visible sign of an invisible grace.
And then when Gene died, I realized how much I missed being a part of a religious community.
On behalf of these witnesses here, your brothers and sisters of the faith, I welcome you to our faith community. Thank you.
I don't want to operate in a vacuum. I mean, I could be okay by myself, but I think I can be so much better with community.
Congregational Church, United Church of Christ. We're actually celebrating our 10th anniversary of being an open and affirming church where everybody is welcome no matter what. We're so excited. We already have our first same-sex marriage.
I'm so happy for him to see him sort of coming out of his shell for the first time in so many years, and to actually see him with that genuine smile on his face is so special. He's changing. He's meeting people, and he's being social, and he's getting invited to stuff, and I don't know what to say. I just love him. I love this. This is great for him.
I used to come down sometimes in the middle of the night, and I would just stand at the fence and cry. And I don't feel like that today. I don't feel that that's appropriate or necessary today.
I look forward to what's ahead now. I didn't used to. I dreaded what was ahead. But now I expect good things to happen. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be, I'm enjoying my life again like I did before Gene died.